Hey, welcome in, DAGERSystem fans. I'm onehandmostly, and today we'll take a look at the accessibility of Breathedge. I think this is our first survival game on this channel. So together with our immortal chicken, we're going to discover truths behind our sudden space crash, craft tools, pilot vehicles, and even control space stations to survive and explore the wreckage. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the settings the game has to offer to make your gameplay more accessible. Then I'm going to review the gameplay mechanics for auditory, visual, and fine motor scores. And before we do get started, I want to give a shout out to Abbate Digital for the review copy. And if you have any questions regarding accessibility in Breathedge, make sure you leave a comment below. So let's see how long we can hold our breath in space. Alright, here we are at the main menu of Breathedge. First I'm going to go to settings, then we're going to go to game. Here you can increase the FOV slider, text language, voice language, subtitles, show the tasks on the screen, FPS limit, three-dimensional control. This is where you control different vehicles and you have X, Y, and Z axes that you control if you need to turn this on or off. And then my favorite is the crosshair in the middle. Kind of gives you a point of center and a way to kind of tell where you're focusing on different objects. Here in controls, you have controller, inversion, as well as sensitivity. I believe it started at 50 and I can increase it up to 70. Felt really comfortable there. And then here you can change the keybinds. All you gotta do is press and press up again, and then you change the keybind. I really do like that you can, to get in and out of the menus, you can just click here on the bottom, click back, and it goes back. Then here are different sound, different volume sliders, master, music, sound volume, voice volume, and notification volume. So you can customize these however way you feel. Now, once you hit play and you want to start a new game, here are the 4 different difficulties you have to choose from. Standard, which includes water, food, and drink. It doesn't really tell you that, but that's what it is. Here's story, which is what I played on. You don't have to worry about oxygen, food, or water. All you have to do is worry about your health, freezing, and radiation. And then impossible is permadeath. And then free, there's no restrictions on death or anything else, but the storyline and the achievements are disabled. So if you just want to play in free mode, it's kind of just cool and chill and build a base. I would like to see that their achievements are still enabled, but that's something that can be discussed at a later time. When it comes to the fine motor accessibility of Breathedge, the game does very little. Really, it only offers mappable controls for both keyboard and mouse. And when you're floating in space or riding any vehicle, you do have to hold your movement key constantly to continue to move. And if you want a little boost from your acceleration, you do have to hold that button, as well as it's not a toggle. There's a little bar that goes down your crosshair that kind of gauges how much fuel you have to boost yourself forward and increase your acceleration. And grabbing resources and materials out of space was pretty easy when they're really small and you only have to left click to grab them. But bigger resources that require hitting them with the scrapper to break them down, and so they break into smaller resources for you to grab, or having to drill paint out of the tanks was really difficult for me because the objects either keep moving because it's space and there's no gravity, and so each time you hit it, it kind of floats away. Or in the instance of the driller, you have to hold the interaction as it makes the interaction circle go around your crossbar all the way, making it difficult to kind of hold that button down if you have trouble holding buttons for longer than maybe a second or 2 seconds. But since you kind of are floating in space, it made it a little bit easier to grab resources because I could just push myself a little bit forward and float towards an object, and then use my hand to use the mouse to just grab an object and not have to use 2 hands to move and grab that object. So I like that kind of aspect, something that's unique to this game. Now, navigating the inventory and the menus of the game was pretty accessible as well for mobility players. You can just use the buttons to enter and exit the inventory, but you do have to press the escape key, but the escape key is reboundable. That makes it a lot easier to get in and out of menus. And once you're in the menu, everything can be done with just the mouse. And with all those things considered, I give my fine motor score of Breathedge partially accessible, or 2 stars. Moving on to visual accessibility, Breathedge doesn't offer any colorblind options, but most of the colors and different objects are kind of bright orange and different sizes and different shapes, so it is kind of easily determinable which object you're picking up or which object you're using. There is no way to scale the UI or anything that can increase the text size. Some of the things may be a little bit tiny when you're looking through the inventory and reading the description or reading the materials that you need to make your certain objects or items in your crafting. One cool thing I did like though is when you're floating around in space or you're trying to interact with different things on your space station or in space, the closer you get, there will be a little reticle that'll pop up in the middle. That'll pop up in the middle of the item, and that'll tell you that it is interactable or it's able to be picked up. So it was really easy to determine what things I could pick up and what things I didn't or weren't able to farm or use in space. And it's something I wish more survival games would use in the future. But unfortunately I have to give the visual score of Breathedge partially accessible or 2 stars. Last, in looking at the auditory accessibility of Breathedge, the game does offer various volume sliders to customize the sound. There are subtitle options to enable or disable, but no way to customize them. And I do wish there was an opacity background behind the subtitles. It can be kind of hard to read depending upon the background and what you're looking at. And most alerts have an audio and visual cue, so you shouldn't be left out in any of these alerts if you're running out of oxygen or food or water. So lastly, I give my auditory score 2 stars or partially accessible. Now I know Breathedge didn't really score really high accessibility wise on a scale of partially accessible, thoroughly accessible, or fully accessible, but I really enjoyed my time playing the game, especially with the different difficulty settings that you can choose from. Playing on story was super relaxful. Don't have to worry about eating or drinking or my oxygen level. I can just float around, pick up resources, move at my own pace, enjoy the music out in space. I really enjoyed my time playing Breathedge. Definitely highly recommend it if you're looking in the survival game genre and you want to play something that's like a satirical take on the survival games and just has super chill music and a good time. If you're looking for more accessibility reviews on all the latest video game releases, make sure to hit the subscribe button. That way we can continue to make gaming enabled.